Hey guys, today we're going to break things down a little bit and do what I call eye training. Let's go over some photos and discover the details. Let's find out why details make for strong photos and how to look at details within a given subject. Okay, let's check it out.
Click, 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 click and a pick it. Click, 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 click and a pick it. Click, 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 click and a pick it. Click, click, click.
Now, some people learn differently. Now, for me, I like to learn visually. I like to see something. When I can see it, I can understand it. I can comprehend it. And that's why I like to teach with that style. So let's go over some photos and let's break down photography into different, smaller, bite-sized details. And let's see how those details will add for strong images, for interesting aspects, and for our learning experience. Okay, let's check it out. So I believe one of the most important aspects of doing photography is to learn how to look at things differently. If we just pick up our camera and just start shooting at everything, then yeah, it's going to be hard to find something interesting. So we need to train our eye how to look for different things in different ways. And that's the purpose of all these videos that I make. Now, when we can break things down to smaller items, they become elements, okay? Now, if I had taken the photo of this street lamp in a scene, then the focus is the scene. But if I break it down into small elements, not even including the whole lamp post, but just the lights, then I start to focus on details. Now, if I cut the photo in half and just focus on one light, the detail becomes even smaller of what I'm focusing on, okay? So try to find things that you can focus on that will make a strong shot. So in the case of these lights, I tried to isolate them from everything else to make it strong, to make it 100% the focal point. So I got down low and I shot up at the sky. So there would only be two elements, the sky and this light post in the shot. And it makes it for a very interesting scene. All right, so let's do another one. Now, everything that you look at that is created is some sort of art item. And I don't know, do you know what this is from? If you just had seen this photo, I had taken this in my photography class, and this is a part of my dining room chair, my metal chair that I sit down to eat at. And I looked at it and I thought, you know what? There's some interesting elements here. There's lines that make an X, there's a 0 or an O, and there's just some interesting elements. And how can we visually draw that out? First, we isolate it with a background that's muted, maybe all white or something. And then we take and we can colorize it or do something to give it more impact, more interest, to make it more pleasing. And this is what I like to use when I'm making my art. I try to find things that are simple that need to be made more interesting, and then you kind of make it your own. So look for details that have contrasting things, like lines going different ways. You have an X line with an O line with a curved line at the top, and then a weird T shape at the bottom. It's just so different. So find things like that, all right? And here's another lamppost idea that I turned into an art print, and it's the same concept, but this time I found a single lamppost which kind of had an ornate, old-time feel, and then I gave it a pastel background with the sky. All right, and another one is something we see every day, the faucet in our bathroom. And how can you take a photo of that in a different way? You have to change your mind to focus on details, okay? And elements. How can you use the element of water to show motion? So I turned the faucet on. I went into the bathroom, and a lot of things in the Philippines tend to decay fast because there's a lot of moisture in the air, a lot of humidity, there's salt in the air, and over time things start to corrode. So it's hard to find things that are perfect, new looking for a long time. Most things are kind of old. And so this scene kind of reminds me of kind of a bathroom scene, and that seems kind of I don't know if it's blah, if it's bland, if it's depressing, but it gives it a little bit of an emotion, whatever it is. And when you see this faucet and this running water, it makes you think of something, right? It isn't just a photo of a bird. It's something that conjures up you to think a little deeper about it. Why is there a photo of this? And how do I connect to that? And that's what we try to look for, things that you can connect to, okay? Now, this I shot at a resort. And I just thought it was interesting. There's this rope tied into a knot. And it would not have been a very good photo had the colors in the bokeh brought out the different colors in the rope. It just would have been a bland shot. So look for backgrounds that can give whatever you're focusing on your details more appeal, okay? So this bokeh just kills it. It's a beautiful bokeh. And I just used a zoom lens and just shot up really close, and it just happened to blow out the background. It was during daylight and it was good lighting. So it was probably a very low f-stop number. I'm not sure what this one was when I took it, so I can't tell you. Alright, so simple things can be made to look interesting or even beautiful if you focus on the details. Now this is from the Japanese shrine in the Philippines. It was, I believe, the last war zone area in the Philippines on Negros Island Oriental. This was a shrine that was three-sided, made to symbolize the Filipinos, the Americans, and the Japanese hope that they never go to war again, that they will be cemented together in peace and harmony. So that's what the three sides of this monument represent. And if you capture the whole monument from the back, that's one type of a photo. But how can you take the shot of just the element of this structure? You have to isolate it. So try to isolate things, okay? And nobody would know what that was if I had it mentioned. They'd just think, oh, it's just a concrete pillar. But there's some real significance to that. It's a memorial. Now, here are some steps going up. And by isolating the steps, it made for an interesting shot, because now we have some leading lines, we have some geometric shapes, and it gives it a very interesting appeal. And we have sunlight shading different areas, making it look very interesting. So find light and how it affects different elements and try to show that in your shot if you can. And that would require maybe an early morning shot, maybe a late evening shot, to capture the way sun is highlighting different elements, okay? And look for shapes, very important. All right. Now this seemed kind of a weird shot, and I kind of made this shot as like a test. It's like, how are people going to react to this if I post this on social media without saying anything? And the weird thing is it had gathered quite a few likes. And I just saw this corner type shot, and it's not perfectly in focus. I should have changed a few things, but you can still tell it's at the corner of something. And I would guarantee almost everybody has spent time in some kind of a corner, standing up from having done something bad at some time in their lives. And when people see a corner, I think they think about that. It's familiar. It's like, yeah, I've been there before. And what does this mean to me now? And what did this mean then? So elements and making things smaller, condensing things, can help you to think, can help your shots to be stronger, and it can help draw your audience into what you're trying to convey, okay? So try to look for elements in architecture. Now, this was a gate. And the interesting thing, the gate had all of these hearts, these heart shapes, all the way throughout the top of the gate. And you wouldn't really notice it unless you focused on the details. And just by having this detail as a shot, it makes for something of interest. And if you shoot it correctly and blow out the background, then this element becomes the entire focal point. And that's very strong. And the neat thing here is we have this strong iron steel with a soft, heart, right? And so look for things like that that kind of contradict each other in a pleasing way. Now, these are the acoustic ceiling preparations in the Silliman University Auditorium. And it just makes for something interesting because the whole ceiling is surrounded by these acoustical type panelings. And it made for an interesting shot zoomed out, but it makes for a more interesting shot zoomed in. Because it's like, what are those? And if you don't know, it's something of curiosity. Now, when I was also in my photography class, I had noticed these lines with the building, and it kind of makes like a Pac-Man type face. And so I had my friend Ryan stand in here. I said, Ryan, stand in here. I don't normally script many of my shots, but every once in a while, if I have somebody with me and I think of something, I'll do that. So try to add a human element to your details, and oftentimes that will make for a stronger photo. And you can also gauge the size of something, so you can see how big these buildings really are in relationship to him. All right, so when you're out and about and you see a cool building, try to focus in on some of the elements that are of detail. Now for me, the detail with this building was the ornate window that was open to the outside. And I was able to capture it at night, and it gives it for a very strong mood because you see the amber glow of the lights inside reflecting or contrasting off of this wrought iron black window gating. And it just makes for a very interesting photo. I really love this photo. It just sets a mood. It's like, where is this? Where is this scene at, and what is inside there? You want to know more. So details sometimes give you the desire to know more about a scene, and it conjures up questions, and that's a good thing. Okay, and then we've got one that I'd taken of a guitar that I had, and I just thought it was kind of interesting. This is a music stand, the holes in the music stand, and I thought, let's take a picture of my Martin guitar logo because people will connect that. They might not connect it to the music stand holes until I tell them. Then it will make sense. They're like, oh yeah, that's in a music stand. And so this was kind of neat. Being that I play guitar, this is a photo of my guitar. All right, so let's do the next one. Okay, now when I was also taking my photography class, we were doing street photography with Urich, the teacher here. And I noticed when I look back at him taking photos of a street scene, I noticed this sign had kind of an arrow design. And I thought, what if I take a shot through this sign arrow at him? What would that do to the photo? And so it almost is like an arrow pointing the direction that he's shooting, and it kind of changes the feel of the shot. And I have another one, but looking the opposite way on the other side of the sign, the arrow kind of pointing at him. And now we can see the scene of him taking the photograph. He's really into shadows, so he'll look for contrasting colors with shadows. And if you look at this area, this is super strong. These super bright colors, this girl with this bright red and blue, and then you've got these really strong shadows. And this is a perfect shot if you want strong contrasting shadows. Look for a lot of colors. All right. Now, when I was doing model photography, I started learning about cropping things. And a lot of the different tutorials that you read, they're like, okay, you should only crop this far into a head, so you're showing everything in the face. But I thought about it one day and I thought, what if I bring the crop really small? What will that do? And it made for a very strong composition, just focusing as the glasses and the eyes as the focal point. You don't see the ears, you don't see the chin, you don't see the rest of the nose. So you can crop things down when it comes to details and make a very interesting shot. You don't have to focus on the big picture. I could even bring this down farther and crop it at her eyebrows. I wouldn't have had to show her forehead. But for me, this was a good balance. All right. Okay, and now this shot, I just love this shot because I've bicycled for years, and I used to fix my own bicycles. And this is a fall time scene with the leaves on the ground. And instead of showing the whole tire, I just showed part of the tire. And when you see it, you know exactly what it is. And it makes you think about riding a bicycle. And that's what we want. We want to have you feel something by looking at these elements, these designs in a smaller, condensed way. All right? Now, your photography shouldn't really have a lot of limits. It should only be as limited to your imagination. Now, when I was doing a beach walk, I come across this shoe, and it was filled with seaweed, and I thought, for crying out loud, that's a shot, right? I didn't show the whole beach. I didn't show where on the beach it was, how close to the water. But you can tell the shoe is wet, and you can see the seaweed. So you kind of can tell the context of the shot. And then it makes you think, why is this shoe here? You know, it's kind of a semi-high heel. Why is it on the beach? Why would somebody wear this shoe to the beach? And how did they lose it? Did they lose it at night? Were they coming down here to have a drink? You don't know. And that is what makes it interesting. It makes you think about it. All right? And then I went to a junkyard in Minnesota with my friend Bill. And Bill noticed in this car, this old Nash has this heater control system called a weather eye. Instead of calling it a heater, it's called a weather eye. It's just so bizarre. And he brought that to my attention, and I thought, oh yeah. So I whip out my camera and I take the shot. Because it's different, it's interesting. And then also, this same car had such a striking front grille that I kind of condensed down the shot and made it as strong as I could, photographing the strong parts of this. And it just made for an interesting composition. All right, let's see what else we got. Now, when you're doing your landscape, sometimes it's really hard to find a focal point if you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of strong features in your landscaping. So you can focal down to smaller elements, like, for example, I'm not sure if this is an aloe vera, but it has very big, separated, pointy leaves. And how can we just make that strong? We isolate it. And the best way to isolate something is to use the sky as your backdrop, to shoot kind of up at an angle at it, okay? All right, and what else do we got? Okay, now this one, this is really easy to understand. Now, this is the foot of the cross. I could have shot the whole cross, but sometimes just parts of it will seem stronger than the whole sum of the total, because now we're thinking, what was here, right? Were somebody's feet up here? How were they nailed to this? What was this experience? And that makes it something we question, we think about. All right, and then we have one more. And the last one is the other end of the cross. When we see that, it's like, oh my gosh, somebody was actually put on the end of this thing, tied up, a stake through their hand, and that's how they died. So it's something that details bring out. So it can cause emotion, it can cause curiosity, it can cause you to think about things, but try to narrow down your photography to the elements, and it will give you something that can be very lasting in a different medium, okay? All right. Hey guys, if you made it this far, I'm so excited, so good for you. Now, go ahead and throw me some comments in the comment box, would you? Hey, you like this type of content, make more of it, or you'd like to see something different. I will take all of those things to heart, so please do that, would you? All right. So thank you to those that have subscribed, and those that haven't, would you please do it already, okay? All right, throw me a like, and let's grow together. Thank you.
Click, 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 click and a picket. Click, 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 click click and a picket, click.